My name is Phyllis Grandma Hardy. I represent the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, and for the Vigil for Freedom and Racial Justice. December the 4th, 2020, Tarboro Correctional Institution, the incarcerated male in his early 70s who had underlying health conditions. November the 23rd, 2020, at Alexander Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his early 80s who had underlying health conditions. November the 10th, 2020, at Tarboro Correctional Institution, incarcerated male in his early 60s who had underlying health conditions. October the 29th, 2020, at Pender Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his mid-50s who had underlying medical conditions. October 2020, at Pender Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his mid-50s who had underlying health conditions. October the 7th, 2020, at Green Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his mid-60s who had underlying health conditions. October the 2nd, 2020, at Central Prison, incarcerated male in his early 70s who had underlying health conditions. October the 2nd, at Pender Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his early 60s had underlying health conditions. September 26, 2020, at Highland Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his early 60s who had underlying health conditions. September the 25th, 2020, at Scotland Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his mid-70s who had underlying health conditions. September the 6th, 2020, at Scotland Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his early 80s who had underlying health conditions. Friday, August the 7th, 2020, at the Cardwell Correctional Center, an incarcerated male in his early 60s who had underlying health conditions. Wednesday, August the 5th, 2020, at the Lumberton Correctional Institution, incarcerated male in his late 60s who had underlying health conditions. July 24th, 2020, at the Albemarle Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his early 70s who had underlying health conditions. July 24th, 2020, at the Albemarle Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his early 60s who had underlying health conditions. July 15th, 2020, at the Albemarle Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his late 50s had underlying conditions. May 7th, 2020, at Noose Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his late 60s and had underlying health conditions. May 6th, 2020, at the North Carolina Correctional Institution for Women, incarcerated female in her late 60s and had underlying health conditions. April 30th, 2020, at the New Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his 70s and had underlying health conditions. April 24th, 2020, at the New Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his late 70s had underlying health conditions. April 22nd, 2020, at Pender Correctional Institution, an incarcerated male in his late 50s and had underlying health conditions.
Advocates sent a letter to all relevant So those were the names of people that have lost their life during their stay in the state's care. Those are people that maybe were sentenced to a drug charge, or, you know, who knows what they're sentenced to. Jaywalking, writing bad taxes, not paying DWI, not paying their fines or whatever. But they are dead now because of that. They are dead because the governor refuses to let people go for overcrowding, and also because the standards of health in prison systems, especially North Carolina prison systems, are subpar. So those people do not deserve a death sentence. So if you can, go to the Vigil for Freedom and Racial Justice, and they have a petition online for the Gov Cooper for you to sign, or you can come out here to Person and Jones Street across from the mansion.
You highlight the fact that every last one of us had underlying health conditions.
The governor's mansion. Every day they'll be here until Gov Cooper gets into office, which will be officially into office, which will be January, late January, mid-January, something like that. Any day you can come out here and talk to Muffin. She's out here every day standing vigil for the often forgotten about people in prisons, especially in North Carolina. You can check out some of my other videos on the Capable of Change website on YouTube. Look for Capable of Change, and I've done a ton of videos about the rampant COVID-19 in prisons with exact numbers. No. Thank you, though. I've done a bunch of videos about COVID-19 conditions in prison, and also the recommendations of the current administration as of ways to deal with COVID-19 and overcrowding, which is to release people. So check us out at decarcerate now nc.com.org, I believe. Just Google that. Hashtag free her. Hashtag clemency works, North Carolina.